Good afternoon. This is the Air Passengers Rights Live Update. My name is Dr. Gabor Lukács, and I'm the President of Air Passenger Rights. I would like to start with thanking our volunteers, Christine, Terry, Dominic, and Martin, who have helped us to get through another 2 weeks of lots of questions, lots of problems, some progress as well. And we are here today, again, to tell you what happened in the past 2 weeks. I'm being told that the audio and video looks good, so we are going to get to the chase. The first development that happened was an Air Transat announcement on the 27th of July. Air Transat announces here that it is stopping to fly in most of Western Canada. So I'm going to, in a moment, highlight that. And the reason that this is interesting because so the impacted gateways is right here. Make it yellow. So the impacted gateways are Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Victoria. And what Air Transat is telling here is that it will not be operating flights from Western Canada to South or US for the winter 2020-2021. And they will still be operating some domestic flights from Vancouver to Toronto and Montreal, and there may be some connecting flights to Europe via Toronto and Montreal, but they are no longer flying direct to Europe. They're no longer flying to the US or to the South. And what this means is that now it becomes clear that their promise to provide vouchers is really useless, because if you live in Vancouver or in Winnipeg, you are not going to be flying with Air Transat anytime in the foreseeable future to your original destinations. So as a result, finally Air Transat is starting to own up to the fact that they have to refund passengers. So for flights booked between November 1st, 2020 and April 30th, 2021 from Western Canada, they are now acknowledging that consumers will receive a refund of the amount to the original form of payment. They tell you don't contact us, but I think you should still be pursuing this. We are going to explain why in a moment. But there is also a catch. So the catch is that there are exceptions. Domestic flights from Vancouver, they claim, is an exception, even though some of those flights may have been cancelled. European flights from Vancouver connecting in Montreal and Toronto, land-only booking is less interest for us here in passenger rights, but that's also to be noted. But those exceptions, of course, they are unlawful. Air Transat has to refund every cancelled flight without exception, but this is a step forward. I'm not sure what exactly is happening in the background, whether it is BC consumer authorities that have mounted some pressure, or the government told Air Transat that this is too far. I would love to know what really happened here in the background, but it is becoming clear that at least for those flights where it is plain and obvious that the flights will not be operating in the foreseeable future, they will be issuing refunds. Similarly, they are talking about flights and bookings previously from March 21st to October 31st. I don't know how they came up with a March 21st date. There were flights, as I recall, that were canceled even before March 21st. If you fall into that category, we're going to talk about it one-on-one, what can be done. Again, we have here the same exceptions for domestic flights and for flights from Europe, which are connecting in Toronto or Montreal. In this case, they are also saying that they will be doing the refund automatically to the original form of payment. So overall, that's a good admission. That's a step forward. But here's the catch. They claim that they can wait until those dates, well in the future, we starting to refund your tickets, depending on when your flight date is. Now, my answer to that is, hell no. Air Transat cannot hold on to your money indefinitely and cannot claim in the name of some kind of economic viability that they have a right entitlement to your money. They don't. So this document is very useful for those of you who are from Western Canada, who fall within the scope of those flights that are canceled, to demonstrate to your credit card issuer that even Air Transat itself acknowledges that you are owed a refund. With respect to those dates, I believe that most credit card companies have clear rules, clear guidelines on how soon refunds have to be issued. This is typically 15 to 30 days, no more. You also have very good consumer protection laws in BC. In Alberta are not so good, but still for online bookings, it's quite firm. You have good consumer protection laws also in Manitoba, sections 130 to 134 of the Consumer Protection Act. If my memory serves me right, they have to refund their within 15 days. So this document creates some clarity, at least for those passengers who are from Western Canada, and it will allow you to have an easier time to do chargebacks with your credit cards. It is one more document that should be sent to the credit card company to tell them, hey, even Air Transat now admits that they have to issue refunds. The next topic I would like to talk about is another useful tool that is the development of the past 2 weeks. And let me just see if I'm able to quickly switch to that. We have already been discussing that to some degree in the group itself, but what I'm referring to is the DOT complaint generator. So as you know, whoops, this is not what I wanted to show. So let's back. I will be back to Sinoid. Just my Windows sometimes tend to act up. So let's go back here to this. And okay, so as you know, the Canadian Transportation Agency has not exactly been excelling at enforcing passenger rights. And that's a very sharp contrast with the US Department of Transportation, which has been quite clear and firm that all tickets, all airfares that have been canceled by the airline under the COVID-19 have to be refunded. So a group of very enthusiastic law students from the University of Ottawa came up with this formal complaint generator. They call themselves Formidable Solutions. And they even created a nice video that explains how it works, what it achieves, and so on and so forth. We are going to have a closer look at the complaint generator itself in a moment. But let me just ask you already that if you have not done so already, please like the website, like the video, because this tool was created as part of an international competition, and the students are going to be graded or marked for that competition based on how much interaction they get on YouTube and possibly on Twitter. So I'm going to right away give you the link to it. If you are watching now it with me, please take a moment to right away visit this video and like the video, and to also leave a nice comment thanking the students for their efforts. Those comments will help the students to get some kind of recognition also in the academic sense in this international competition for the amazing work they have done. And I would like to say that no one's sure in terms of what the work they have done is amazing, because let's have a look at the tool itself. It is asking the user to fill out a bunch of questions, first to understand that that they are responsible for the document, and it is not their responsibility ultimately what is being generated, which is a reasonable thing. Then you fill in your name, and I'm just going to quickly fill in here some letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, just to. It is, and let's add here. So once you fill in the information, it is going to ask you which airline did you book with, and then whether you used a third-party booking agency, let's say no, and then whether it's a one-way or round trip or multi-city, and then you can enter all the information about your flights, the return date, the outbound date, and it will keep asking you questions about your flight. It's going to ask you questions as to when you learned that it was canceled, all these details that normally I would be asking you also in the Facebook group. And eventually, if you go through all this process, it is going to generate a complete legal complaint that you can then submit to the U.S. Department of Transportation, and then the airline will have to provide a formal response. So unlike an informal complaint, which is just for statistical purposes, this one is a formal complaint that does require a formal legal response by the airline. And if we have sufficient numbers of those complaints, especially against our beloved national flag bearer Air Canada, then the likelihood of some kind of reaction from the US Department of Transport increases. I would, again, just to be very, very clear, I would very much like to encourage everyone to use this tool to post comments under the video, to like it. It is going to help a lot to the creators who have spent, I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect they spent probably 2 weeks without much sleep to create this tool from scratch. So they deserve a round of applause from all of us. And I hope that if you haven't yet shown your appreciation for this, you will be showing it now. The third item of interest is something that we already posted about in the group, but we should discuss about it again. We have made an application for leave to appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada about the issue of vouchers. So let me again fix this. I don't know why it's my computer today is not behaving. Sorry for the how it should work. Okay. So we filed an application for leave to appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada, and this relates to the Canadian Transportation Agency's statement on vouchers. You probably remember that on March 25th, the Canadian Transportation Agency put out a statement on its website that purports to support the airline's practice of providing vouchers instead of actual refunds. Obviously, that practice is unlawful, it's a no-brainer, and so we challenged that in court, and we also sought an interlocutory, a temporary injunction to have it taken down because of the vast confusion that it is causing. The Federal Court of Appeals judge, a single judge, denied our interlocutory injunction and also made some findings, but at least confirmed that the statement on vouchers was not a legally binding document. Ironically, that's the reason that we were denied, in part, the interlocutory injunction. And so, because the statement on vouchers continues to confuse passengers, it is continued to be used by credit card companies, by airlines to deny passengers money that is owed to passengers. We have asked the Supreme Court of Canada to weigh in on the issue. Now, it's not simply the issue of refunds. That's not the issue that we are asking the court to weigh in. Rather, the legal framework as to which type of matters, which type of issues can be subject to judicial review. I'm going to also leave here to the group a link to where you can review those documents yourself. And so our memorandum of arguments is, of course, available online. And so the two issues that we are raising here in terms of legal issues is, what is the correct legal test for availability of judicial review in federal court? There is some inconsistency around it, even among the Federal Court of Appeal itself, that the question is not, the issue is not every action of an administrative body is in the capacity that would invoke necessary judicial review. For example, if the Canadian Transportation Agency has a private contract with someone to supply it paper, that's probably not judicial review type of issue, because it's just a business relationship. They're not acting in their capacity as a statutory body. On the other hand, if they put out a statement like the statement on vouchers telling the public, well, actually, it's okay what the airlines are doing, then it's a whole different matter. The second issue that we are raising here is, what is the national and consistent approach to irreparable harm for interim relief in the public interest? That's another legalistic question as to what happens with the risks. How do you have to show a certainty of harm would result, or would a probability of risk, likelihood of risk, be sufficient? The Federal Court of Appeal seems to be at odds with the rest of Canadian courts. So both of those issues that we are raising are matters of constitutional and national importance, because they affect everybody who litigates before the Federal Court of Appeal and the federal courts as a result. So we filed it just this past Monday, and concurrently, the next day, I think it was sent to us by email the same day, the Canadian Transportation Agency also brought a motion in the Federal Court of Appeal to strike out our application about the statement on vouchers. So it is going to be an interesting situation as to some parties already before the Supreme Court. At least we are asking the Supreme Court to weigh in. Other parties now before the Federal Court of Appeal. We will, of course, be keeping you updated about this, about any further developments. But I think you will know that one of the reasons that I have been a bit silent perhaps in the past few weeks is that we have been working with Simon Lin very hard on this Supreme Court of Canada application for leave to appeal. So these are the updates for today. I'm wondering if there are any questions about what has been said about how these things operate. I'm going to give a short time to my wonderful team to see if they can still suggest some questions. But if not, then there is no any rule in the book to require long sessions. After all, I have no aspirations to compete with Fidel Castro. So let me answer a few questions here. Bridget Morgan is asking, how can I get some help with launching a frustrated contracts case? Bridget, right now, still small claims courts are not operating in full. So I would say you need to figure out in which province you are, what forms you need to file, what are your Provincial Frustrated Contracts Act. And in the coming weeks, I don't think I will be available to help with that. I'm just trying to help people with credit card chargebacks. The good news is, though, that there's no rush. Typically, in most provinces, the limitation period is 2 years. In Quebec, I think it's maybe even 3 years. I suggest you double check. So it's not like you have to file it tomorrow. Once things hopefully a little bit calm down with those chargebacks, with the other issues, I'm going to try to look into the frustrated contracts issue as well. Something you may also want to consider is whether you fall into the federal court class action, because if it gets certified, then it may or may not be a good idea for you to make all this effort to sue on your own when there's already a class action. So that's something to consider. And Diana Lone is asking, my non-refundable flight from Toronto to Chicago for August 20th is still flying. Flights are booked October 2019. Due to COVID-19, I don't feel safe flying to anywhere in the US. Is there any recourse to recap my airfare? Diana, I would wait until August 19th before making decisions, but I don't see a silver bullet for you. If the flight does operate, and technically you are allowed to board a flight, it's really a harder case now to make a frustrated contracts type of argument, because yes, the situation in the US is bad, but I would look also at what kind of advisories there are from Canada about flying to the US. There are still many people flying there, so I would be myself a bit at loss. This may be possibly a case for insurance. It's not as clear cut as many other cases. One more thing I'm gently reminded here, and I think it's a great point to remind everyone that we have instituted some new rules in the group. So it was mostly rewriting the group rules in a way that it is more simple, more transparent. I'm going to try to see if I can show it to you. Let me see if I'm going to try to take a screenshot of it and then try to view it in a different screen. Just bear with me for a moment. Save. Okay, and so I can close, and this I'm going to close, and let me just get another window up here. That is a great suggestion, and I didn't think about it. So I hope you can have a look at this. I'm going to try to center it. So this is our set of new rules for the group. And one thing that the team of moderators is asking to everyone is about rule number 1, self-study. If you have a question, familiarize yourself with the announcement, group post, and airpassengerize.ca before creating a new post. It will save us and moderating team a lot of time in the group if before you post a question, you make sure that you are familiar with all the applicable information that we already have up there. We have seen lots of duplication, and the less of those duplications we can have, the better. So that was just a gentle reminder. It's mostly I've been just rewriting the rules in a more clear language, more direct language. So just please take a moment to have a look at them. Nothing particularly new, just reminding people about not ask for advice, but for information, not ask open-ended questions like, has this happened to anyone? Well, that doesn't help the group, because then if you ask an open question, whether something happened to anyone, you're going to get lots and lots and lots of posts, but you won't get an answer to what actually the best course necessarily in your situation. And it also creates lots of unnecessary traffic in the group. And of course, never block admins or moderators, because if there is some issue, if the post may not be appropriate, then that's our way to reach out to you. All right, I'm just going back again to the team. Anything else we still want to cover? I don't see much questions, and of course, on such a nice Sunday afternoon, I don't expect people to be crowding in a group, and I very much appreciate anyone who has already joined. So barring any other question, I think we are going to shortly wrap it up. It doesn't have to be all long update. So my team is telling me that we have covered everything. Number of people are dropping, so thank you very much for joining us today. And we will probably be joining with another update in about 2 weeks, unless there is some earth-shattering developments next week. It will probably be 2 weeks when we are talking again. And in the meantime, be safe, keep physical social distancing, and enjoy your summer, what is left of it. I will see you in 2 weeks.